Hey y'all, Choice here. Thank you so much for joining me again for another session of Choice Spirit. Here I want to go into this thing. How do we extricate ourselves from the mass psychosis? How do we get out of the, back in the day they used to say rat race. Or slip away from the herd, or any number of other ways you might want to define coming out of the delusion. Well, let's just say it this way. I brought this up before. We're having an experience, y'all. And I keep saying it because I know one day it'll truly, truly click. You know, sometimes we can think we know something, but we haven't. We can think we know something, but we really didn't truly experience it. We don't know it experientially, but we know it intellectually, psychologically. If we analyze it, we say, yeah, that makes sense. But we don't know what it is to really feel what it is, to be free of the delusion to some degree. I mean, we see things, we see stuff going on around us, and we can see it a mile away and say, not today. And as we go deeper into this, we'll sense another level of this. And there's always more and more and more. I shouldn't call it levels, but we can say frequencies, we can say let's just keep it simple, there's more to it. So as we get to the more to it, we begin to see things that was always there, or tap into a frequency that was always within mind. It's just that you were off somewhere else. So you never came in contact with. Or if you came in contact with, you didn't recognize it. Perfect example. I know I'm taking a little while to get to this. Trying to figure out how to put it. But anyway, for instance, you know how you go out and you buy a new car? I used this before in one of my other videos. Or you go out and you buy a new dress. You go out and buy a new car, you think it's unique, it's different, the color is different. Wow, this is nice, I like this. You get it on the road and all of a sudden you see the same car everywhere you look. It's the same thing, same color. But when you purchased it, when you thought it was unique. And the reason is because you were not vibing at that place. And then when you vibe at that place, you suddenly conceive how many cars are on the road, or how many cars you've created that look like yours on the road. And it's the same for a new dress. You buy a dress, you think it's different. You get to the place, you see everybody with the same dress, or at least 2 or 3 with the same dress, maybe a different color. At the time you got it, it seemed unique. That's because you're now in that frequency band. And I'm using this on a smaller scale. This is across the board. This is with anything, okay? So once you are in relations to that, you're going to see more of something like that. You're going to recognize more of it. We're experiencing things because we come in contact with ideas or thoughts or vibrations, if you will, of something that then forms more of that thing. So we come in contact, like the car, we come in contact with things, and then there's something that we do to begin to form more of that type of thing. I talked about this in many different ways, in many different, given different scenarios. But when you come in contact with an idea of something, that coming in contact with that thing begins to form more of that thing. You know, this can go with people. If you're around a certain type of people, all of a sudden you're attracting more and more and more of that type of people. Or if you're in a certain environment, all of a sudden wherever you go, you manage to fall in the same type of environment or condition. Same thing. Same thing. And sometimes what happens if someone doesn't point it out, we don't come to recognize it, to realize that this is what it is. It can become by the way of perception. Now let me let you know. Perceptions are sometimes tampered with. Tampered with. How you see things. And most of us, because, you know, think about it. If you're from the West, you're from the East, wherever you're from, you pick up certain ways, you know, your culture and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that it's tampered with, but is a handing down of certain knowledge and information that is, you know, works for the society that you're a part of. It's how you fit in, right? So it's not that all is not great, but it's so that you know that once you have made these things part of your identity, part of who you be, your perception of things will be along the lines of what has been indoctrinated along the way. So, but there are other things where there are deliberate attempts, and a deliberate, not attempt, because it's happening and it's happened, where our culture, our identity, what we believe ourselves to be, has been tampered with. Come on, let's face it. Right? And so we are trying to find our way back to who we be. But that's not really all that we're trying to find our way back to. We're trying to find our way back to ourselves, but we don't know that we're doing that. We don't know that that's what we're doing. And many of us are still sleepwalking or not aware that we are that we are not ourselves. We are a creation that we participated in the creation of, that we have participated in the creation of, and that we allow other folk to come in and participate in the creation of. Now let me say it this way. I know it can be you are the all-knowing, the all that is, the all that will ever be, is who you be. There isn't anything outside of that. People try to make it make sense and say, okay, everything, you are not that, right? You are not an aspect of all that is. You're not that drop of water out of the whole. You're not part of that living water. The living water is out there, and you're separate. This is what they have you really believing, because this is been indoctrinated. This is a belief. This is how things have been tampered with. So we spend most of our lives, it's not our entire lives, looking for that we are. Looking for what we are outside of who we are. But, well, with that said, we created that. We created that so that we have this journey, if you will, back to self. But it's not really a journey, because you are it, but you're not, how can I put this? You are what is looking for what you are. You are looking for what you are. The Almighty is what is present in all things, in all ways, in every way, and in nothing and no things is still this presence that is interacting with itself, through itself. And our free will that is gifted to us gives us an opportunity to create a mask to cover what we are, and then believe the mask that we've created. Now I know I'm all over the place, but it's all related, and I will make other videos on this, as I have made many, but I will make more. Our perception of everything is off because what we knew ourselves to be, to some degree, has been tampered with. And so the little heads up that we have, and just in the spiritual practices that has been removed from us, and some other thing has been given to us, we have come out of tuning into that which is us. We've come away from tuning into the all Now, let's see. It's okay to know this part when you're looking outside for answers. I mean, it's okay when you're looking outside for answers, when you know this part about the truth being within. It's okay if you're observing what is outside and what you are perceiving, your perception of the external, when you know that you are a part of all that you are witnessing, that you have some part in this, that you are participating in the creation of all that you see. I think in the next video I'm going to talk about how we got, how we created these badass kids and these badass kids, how we created these badass kids that don't know how to honor thy mother, thy father. And because we don't know that we are this, we allow ourselves to be treated a certain way. But I mentioned before, in one of my other videos that we allowed ourselves to be gullible. Our gullibility is what allows us to experience something, so that we may evolve through these things and grow through these things that we have participated in creating, so that we can have the experience. Now, I know I speak about this stuff, and the more I speak about it, what it does is it opens up. The more knowledge, right knowledge, or even if it's not right knowledge that you get, you can make it right. But the more it opens you up to possibilities. It expands your scope, if you will. It releases more information. Your DNA then releases more information. There's certain things that is like that when you hear a certain sound, you're able to resonate with that sound. And then when the sound, you're able to resonate with that sound, and then when the sounds come together, it produces a certain melody. It comes together and it opens up into something more. So sometimes the more I ramble on, in my efforts to make this make sense, something's got to click at some point. You are, people say, the co-creator. You are the co-creator of everything that you are experiencing. The experience would not be if you did not exist. Your unique perspective, your unique point of view would not exist without your existence. And everything that you experience is within your mind. It's not happening outside of your mind. It's part of your creative imagination, your imaginings. Another example. I don't know. let me try to find something simple. Let me try to find something else. If you're thinking about something, and you start off thinking that you're going somewhere, you're going to travel somewhere, and then when you begin thinking about your travels, your mind all of a sudden may be linked to the last time you traveled, and memories come up. And then it goes from the memories to something else, and then from there to something else. The thoughts begin to hop around, though you started out just thinking about your travels and where you're going, and perhaps what you're going to pack. Perhaps something you're putting in that suitcase reminds you of where you wore it last, and then that remembrance of when you wore it last reminds you of where you went, what you did, who you were around, if you spilt something on it, what happened, the talks that took place. The mind begins to go into memory mode. Or it begins to go in imagination mode. This whole story begins to unfold within your mind, and you haven't even gone anywhere. It's all taking place in your mind. This is how it works. Now, if you have an idea of how you perceive, if your perception or how you see things has been planted along the way or from your own experience, all of that will come into the story that you're painting. Because you'll go into memory and start pulling things out of memory, and the brain, the neuron connections within your brain will begin to fire off and make those connections within mind. Now, I know I'm a little all over the place. I'm going to come back to this, but this is just a little long word, a little word, food for thought. I'll come back and talk on this some more. Much love, Choice here. But remember, if your perception is altered, whenever you think about something, whatever has been indoctrinated and planted within your ways of perceiving things will be part of whatever you create within your mind. And remember, whatever you create within your mind, you're then forming. And then that forming of this creation then begins to manifest itself outside what we perceive to be outside of the mind in the material world. Your perceptions begin to take form when you're thinking on those things, when you're imagining those things, and what's going on begins to emit a frequency that begins to take form and begins to manifest itself on the external, what we perceive to be external conditions. Hey, I know I'm beginning to sweat. I'm beginning to sweat, y'all. I'm out of here. Oh, much love. Thank you so much for joining me again for another session of Choice Spirit. Namaste.